another intimate and relational topic today, one that we hope will transform your relationship.
That's right, Tina Marie. We have a special guest. And our special guest today is Honest Alley, Miss Amy Greenaway.
And so we'll be right back with the conversation. Cue the music.
Welcome to Loving Beyond the I Do podcast. This power couple is building stronger marriages one day at a time. Talking about real issues on love, relationships, and marriage longevity. Let's break down the barriers and engage in healthy conversation with your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie. Take a seat and buckle up because things are about to get real.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome to Loving Beyond the I Do podcast. We are your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie.
That's me.
And we are here to inspire and empower individuals with actionable strategies, insights for developing meaningful and fulfilling relationships using universal principles, effective communication, and mindset shifts.
And we use the Manifest Method framework to help individuals create and develop the type of relationship they want. You ask, what is the Manifest Method? I'm glad you asked. It's helping you take your relationship off cruise control. Using the Manifest framework, mindset, awareness, nurture, intention, focus, empower, strengthen, and transform. So before we get into today's episode, have you grabbed your copy of Manifest a Joy-Filled Relationship yet?
You should
and
have.
If you haven't, I just have one question. What are you waiting for? You can't manifest what you don't know you're missing or what you're doing wrong. So grab one today for yourself and one for a friend. Go to manifestajoyfilledrelationship.com to get your copy.
Start transforming yourself and your relationship today. All right. This is what I'm talking about. And like I said, we have a special guest in the building with us today.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and let me tell you a little bit about Miss Amy Greenaway. Amy Greenaway is the host of the Your Honest Alley podcast, a podcast coming from your straight shooting bestie who's here to shake you up with truth, love, and a whole lot of hype. With a passion for self-development, lived experience, and a deep study of the human brain, relationships, and personal growth, Amy brings wisdom, understanding, and encouragement to help you design the life you truly love. Based on the beautiful Sunshine Coast of QLD, Australia, she's an avid traveler, having explored over 47 countries. She's also happily married to a man who has shown her that relationships can be peaceful and safe. And she wants you to know that's possible for you too. Welcome, Amy Greenaway, to the show. Hey!
Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yes.
Thank you for
We're so
joining
happy to
us.
have you.
Yes. So let's start off by you. So we read the bio, right? We heard the bio. Now you tell us a little bit about yourself. Other than the bio, right? The real you.
Yeah.
Not the Amy on paper.
Well, it is the real me. I'm the same in every way. I'm Amy Greenaway. I am the host of the Your Honest Ally podcast. It's pretty much a podcast coming from the angle of your best friend or your big sister who loves and cares about you so much that I tell you how it is even when you don't want to hear it, encourage you to live your dreams and help you expand your mind and give you practical steps to maximizing your life. I like to say, think of myself and my guests as the people who have gone before you and have been through a lot of life and will help you steer in the right direction or help steer you in the right direction. I personally have lived through a lot while managing to come out on top, along with studying the brain, human behavior, studying relationships, and I'm a certified personal trainer and pre and postnatal coach. So I have just a whole array of a background. And I actually started the podcast journey documenting our fertility process and how we had actually decided to do it completely opposite to most people, because I wanted to show people that there are other ways to do things. Like, there's not always, this is the way that it happens, and that there always is a choice. So that's what I do. I live in Australia on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Queensland. I have an amazing husband who has taught me a lot about being in a peaceful, calm relationship. And yeah, I've lived overseas. I just love life, and I love maximizing my life, and I love seeing other people chasing their dreams and maximizing theirs too.
So you said that what your podcast was about. So what made you decide to do a podcast? Like what so you said the podcast journey. So what was the, hey, you know what? I want to talk about this. Like how did it come about? What was the whole process and what you hope to, like you said, I want to tell people there's a choice. Explain that. Go a little bit deeper for us.
So it's so random how it came about. So I was like, for so long, I felt like I didn't have a purpose, or like I had so much to give, but I didn't know in what avenue, how I was going to do that. And Kirk and I had started our fertility journey, and I had put it on like my Instagram stories, and the amount of people that were interested and wanted to listen and wanted to learn was like insane. But I was like, I need way more than an Instagram story to be able to detail this. And I also have a lot of people, they always ask me for advice, or just in all different areas of life. So I was like, one day I was sitting on the couch and it just randomly dropped into me, like, I'm going to start a podcast. It was so random. It was like divine intervention. Like, God just was like, that's what you're going to do. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I started the podcast. And so my first episode, it was always the goal to have the whole array of maximizing your life and opening your mind and seeing the different ways to do things and understanding people. But the first episode was to detail how we were beginning our fertility journey different to what I would say 99% of the population does. And yeah, I just really, for me, it's like I said, I really get a lot of joy seeing people chasing their dreams and just loving life. It makes me sad. I'm living in Australia. I don't know if you've heard this, but tall poppy syndrome is like a real big thing over here.
Okay.
So when I lived in America and Canada, it was very much the case that you would succeed, and it was like everyone can succeed. A tide brings up all ships. Whereas Australia is like, if someone's doing better, they don't like that and they'll pull people down. So, but I'm not like that, and I don't want other people to be like that. So I kind of wanted the Australian market to have something different as well, to be like, everyone can succeed, everyone can live a great life. There's more than enough goodness for everyone.
Right.
Yeah, and so I'm really passionate about that, and I'm just it kills me to see people wasting away their lives. So that's essentially the real basis, the crux of my podcast, is to help you make sure you don't waste away your life.
Okay. So do you mind going deeper into your fertility journey? So
No, I can talk about
you
that.
guys did something different. So what is the difference?
Yeah, so we originally, I had an AMH test, which they say is testing your eggs in reserve, which it doesn't really do that, but let's just say that's what it does. And it came back, really, really low.
Okay.
Like, I think I was 30 at the time, and it came back as if I was like 45 or older. So
Oh,
they were
wow.
like, you have like no eggs, you need to do IVF, you need to do fertility treatment, this, that. And Kirk and I personally had spoken, we never really wanted to do IVF. I think it's great, but I just didn't personally want to do it. So I spoke with one of my friends who is also a genius. He's in the health space. He's just amazing. And he calmed me down because I cried for like a week. I was like,
Oh, wow.
because I
Right.
thought, I always thought, oh, I don't know if I want kids. And then as soon as the option's taken away from you,
Right. Right.
it's like,
Right.
Yes.
what? So I was like, not having that choice anymore. And he had sent me lots of studies and a meta-analysis to show that that's not the case. That AMH doesn't dictate if you can conceive naturally at all. It's that test is used for people doing fertility treatment or IVF to know how strong of medication they need before they do a retrieval.
Oh.
But so I shouldn't have got this test, but
Okay.
everyone just says, go get this test. And so then I just decided from that, I was like, no, I don't think my body's even ready to have a baby or anything. So I found a fertility naturopath. She's a doctor as well. And we decided for almost 2 years that we were going to get our bodies ready
Okay.
for
Okay.
a baby. So most people just start trying
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and then they go, oh, we can't, for some reason, we can't fall pregnant. So we're just going to do IVF, or they fall pregnant, or, there's all these different
Right.
scenarios. But I was like, no, I'm not going to try. I don't want to try at all.
That was my
So
next question. I was going to say,
Say.
so why did you go get the test? Were you guys trying and it was unsuccessful? No. So you guys never even tried.
no, we never
You
tried.
you just jumped the
I
gun.
just
You're
like
just
to
like,
know
oh, I just want to
everything.
know.
I need to get ready.
Right.
I am very much a plan my life. This is the plan kind of person. And I like to know, and I wanted to know every single thing so I could make a educated decision on an informed decision on my own life. Right.
Okay.
And then I had learned over time and all my research and everything that I've done that if my body wasn't ready to even conceive, or like my eggs weren't good or sperm wasn't good, that it would impact if I was managed to have a proper pregnancy and give birth and the baby like was there, that it impacts them for life because
Right.
there's
Mm-hmm.
so many things that can happen. And I was like, well, now I know this, it's negligence if I just go and try. So I was like, the child deserves better than me just going, I just want a baby right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I worked with the naturopath, thank God, because I had an autoimmune antibody attacking my thyroid, which would have made me miscarried multiple times anyway. I had like super low, magnesium, and turns out I had very low vitamin D.
Oh,
And
wow.
vitamin D is directly associated with low AMH, which is
Okay.
the
Okay.
test.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's how
So
yeah,
Yep.
it's all
yeah,
All right.
connected,
It's all
right?
it's
When
connected.
we
all
understand.
connected.
When we understand, right.
Yes. Yeah. So that was our process. Like we were just like, because some people, even my sister, like when she found out I was pregnant, she was like crying. Then she was like, "You were trying for so long." I was like, "We didn't try once. Like we literally." I was like, "Do you not listen?" Like she listens to my podcast and everything, and I'm like, "But people half listen, right? Like people
Yes.
don't. They're not always like
Absolutely.
fully
Absolutely.
focused."
Even if they're listening, they're still not hearing
Hearing.
what you're saying.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They're
they're
filtering
hearing
through
what they want to hear.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Most people, I've never met someone that does it this way. And even my naturopath, she loves us because she's like, this is the best thing ever. No one does this. Everyone always puts themselves through so much pain before
Right.
they get to
Before
this
they
point.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I didn't want to do that. I am a emotion ruled by emotion, human design. So me putting myself through not
All of the
knowing
right.
and not, all of that is going to put a strain on my relationship and just on my mental health. So, and Kirk doesn't deserve that. So that's what we decided to do. And yeah, I'm really glad because we accidentally tried one day without trying, and now we're having a baby.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Right.
Yeah, so
See how wonderful
very
that
relieved.
was?
I
Right
know,
out the
I know.
gate,
And
right?
I'm really glad because now I'm feeling like I feel, of course, like the first few weeks of pregnancy, I was obviously worried because we were traveling all over South and Central America while we were going through the first trimester. So
Okay.
I was like worried. But then as soon as I spoke with my fertility naturopath, she put me at ease because I was like, I don't have, prenatals and there's nothing you can find here and all of that. And she's like, if you were anyone else, I'd be worried, but you have been doing the work for 2 years.
Right.
Your body
Right.
has everything your baby needs. It's going to be okay. You're just going to be tired.
Right.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'm like, okay, here we go.
But you know what's
Yeah.
interesting? You said you prepared 2 years in advance to have a
Mhm.
baby.
Uh-huh. But most
Gee.
people try for 2 years before they
Right.
I know,
go.
which is right. I mean, like I've really never heard of someone say I'm getting myself ready to have a baby.
So
Uh-huh.
let me ask you. So you during this time you said I'm going to get my body ready. I'm going to prepare my body physically, emotionally, mentally. You know, my husband and
Mhm.
I this is the path we're going to take. So were you on something else? Were you guys just careful? What were you doing during that time to make sure that you didn't get pregnant during the 2 years while you were getting yourself together?
So it was so funny. We hadn't done any like, I don't do chemical contraception or,
Okay.
the pill or anything
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
So for the 2 years that I was like, no, I don't want to fall pregnant. It's called the symptothermal method. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. It's just as accurate, just as effective as the pill if done properly.
Okay.
It's where you track your temperature every day and you chart it. You have to chart. And so you can see when ovulation is and you can see when everything's happening and you get really in tune with your body. And I think that's how I figured out so early on that we were pregnant because I was like, why is my temperature not going back down after ovulation?
I don't need a pregnancy test, right?
Right.
Yeah, but then I was like, nah, I'm not. And Kirk's like, you're pregnant. I was like, nah, I'm not. I was like, it's still going up though. My temperature's not dropping.
Wow. Good. Good.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and you
that's
just get the signs, and even like weight tracking, like with all of that, you see how your body, just as a female, we fluctuate daily, and yeah, it is really good. And I just didn't. I was on the pill as a young teenager and early adults, and I was just like, I don't want to do that to my
right.
body any longer.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
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 I understand.
And that's just when we're talking about the naturalness of our bodies, right? Just being in
Mhm.
tune. That's so how have you decided what type of birth you're going to have? Are you going to have any type of drugs for that or how are you going to do it? Is it going to I'm sure it's going to be different, right? It's not going
Yeah.
to be traditional.
Right. I'm sure it's not.
Right?
Yeah, it's gonna be
We're not
different.
you're not going live during that time, are you? Right?
No, no, I like we didn't tell anyone we were pregnant until like 15 weeks. So
Okay.
like
Okay.
Oh
I don't
wow.
think I'm going live during my childbirth. Um I'm like it's so funny because even now that people know, I'm just like, oh, it's my little secret, like, but it's not obviously. It's clear, like there's a belly. Um yeah, so I what's it called? A completely what do they call it? Physiological birth. So it's just trusting my body to do what it's
Okay.
supposed
Is
to
it going to
do.
be water? Is it just going to be natural
Yes.
like just
Yeah.
Water. Okay.
Well, hopefully water will be there, but obviously if I feel uncomfortable or whatever. But yeah, I'm aiming for completely natural, um, and yeah,
are you
just
At
I believe
home?
my
Yeah, I was
body's
going to
made
say, are
to
you
do
doing it
this.
at home or are you going to be in a hospital?
I haven't told anyone, but yes, we're doing it at home.
No, well,
Okay. No.
well,
Oh well.
you
Yep.
still haven't told them unless you tell them you're on Love and Beyond the I Do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they
Yeah.
still
I'll
won't
share
know,
that in 20 weeks after the birth. I'll share the podcast.
right?
You'll get like a
We're
big
gonna
like
like,
surge 20 weeks later. Like,
right?
oh,
It's like, okay, so now we're airing this episode, and
Right.
she's already had the baby. That's wonderful.
yeah.
So now that we're talking about that, give us a
Mhm.
little bit of history about you and your husband.
Yes.
Just a little bit of history.
About me, what? Sorry, you cut out
You
for a
and your
second.
husband, your relationship.
Yeah, husband. Okay, so my beautiful husband, Kirk, he is just the most calm, beautiful, amazing human, the nicest person you'll ever meet in your life. We met in Canada back in 2016 when we were both living in Canada, and we were just really good friends. So while I was in Canada, I was on like a 5 year celibacy hiatus, singledom, loving
Okay.
being single. I was very, very, very single, and yeah, so we were just friends. He was very far in the friend zone, but you just
Oh my
anyone that knew,
goodness. That still makes me quiver.
yeah. Anyone that knows Kirk or knew, like even knows, they just go, "Oh my gosh, she's the most beautiful person in the world." And that's how I'd say, like, I just love him so much. He's so beautiful, like as a friend. But I never, ever, ever saw him as more than a
A
friend.
friend.
And then, so we all just became best friends, and we moved back to Australia. Kirk moved kind of close to me where I lived in Sydney at the time. And there was like 4 or 5 of us from Canada that would always catch up. So we'd go
Okay.
away for weekends, and we were just the best friends, like 4 best friends, I guess. And one Christmas, oh, it was 6 months before Christmas, actually, we were away, and Kirk tried to kiss me, and I was like, what on earth? Like, he
There
was
you go. He
drunk.
tried to make that move.
So he,
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing?
He
And
got beside
he
himself.
was
He just couldn't take it anymore.
right?
he held it in. But he was drunk, and I was sober because I was driving everyone. And he's like trying to kiss me and holding my hand. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And he's always been super affectionate. So that didn't make, like, that was
Right.
like whatever. He would put his hand on my shoulder, but he does that to everyone. He's just like that. He's affectionate. And I said to him, Kirk, friends don't kiss. I was like, it's a bad thing. Friends don't do that. It's not, doesn't end well. Like, and he goes, that's a myth. He's saying that. I was
My man.
like, it's not a myth. And he's like, it is. And like, he was so drunk. And then he was like, I'm getting into bed with you tonight, cuddling. And I was like, no, you're not. So I went and
He
had
went
the
straight all the way
longest.
from
He
a
did,
kiss.
didn't
He went from first
Right.
base all the way to third base. I'm like, he
He's
was
just running around the
yeah.
bases.
Snuggle.
He was
Yeah.
hoping for a home run. He was like swinging for the gate. Wow. He
He was
didn't even
trying.
stop.
I know. And then so I went when we got back for like a fully hour and a half shower because I was like, I need him to pass out so I can go into another room. So he passed out, and then I just went and slept in my bed. I was like, thank God. And then the next day, I don't know if he remembers that he did that. And then 6 months later at Christmas, we had a friend's Christmas. It was all 4 of us. And then we were back at their house. We had like an after party, and he just chased me around. He was stomping and grunting. I don't know how that worked. And he chased me around and kissed me.
Oh,
And
he got that kiss.
I was drunk. So he was like, this is my in. And but then obviously I kissed him back. And then from that, it was like him trying, and I was like, no, this isn't a good idea. And
I
he's like,
don't,
it's a great idea. I was like, no, it's not. And I was like, no, we can just make something. He's like, we'll make something work. And he's thinking, I'm going to get her. Like, I'm not giving up.
right,
And he
right,
was never aggressive or
right.
cocky or anything. He was quietly persistent. So we would go for walks, or he would call it a date, but I wouldn't call it a date. Like, we'd just go to dinner, but like
He
we
was
both
like, it's a
drove. And
date. He's
Yeah.
like, this is
yeah,
another
Right.
date, right?
Right.
I was like,
We're
this
out
is not a
alone.
date.
We're on a date.
Did you ever say, what would our friends say about this? Like, we're friends, right? Did
Well,
you
it was like, because they all knew, like, especially in Canada, it was like, no one even tries to kiss or hook up with Amy. There's
Mhm.
just no chance. And they would, like, my friend Roger, he would stand in front of me, like we would be, say, at a club or whatever, and some person would come and try and dance with me, and Roger would beeline in between us so that I didn't have to reject another person, because it was just a constant thing. And once people would move to Banff, and they'd figure out, okay, so Amy's just a no-go zone. So it was more the shock of, oh my gosh, like, what the heck? Amy's with Kirk. Amy's with someone at all. But then, like, Kirk, oh my gosh, they were just like friends. I'm so
right,
confused. So
right.
I was still confused. I still am confused. Like, our wedding day, I was like, this is the weirdest thing, like, marrying my best friend. But yeah, so everyone was like so stoked, and lots of guys were like, well, if anyone can have Amy, I'm glad it's Kirk. I was like,
Right.
didn't know that you guys were divvying me up, but yeah. So
Right.
it was that I was like, I don't know, and I'd been single for so long, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for
She acts
this,
like she's 60. Like, I
Yeah,
was
like,
single
that's
for
for
so
so
long,
long.
like for
I know,
40
I know.
years.
Right.
I wandered in the wilderness for 40 years and
Right.
40 nights.
I was just all alone.
It was like more than 5 years,
That's
right?
right.
She's like,
Yeah, it was fine. But it was single a long time for me, because from the age of 12 to like 24, 22, I was in constant relationships. Like I would jump from one to the next. So for me to go from that to being completely single and learning how to rely on myself completely and learning how to actually treat people in relationships and all the things I did, and I built a life that I really, really loved without relying on anyone else. So I was like, oh, am I ready for this? And gladly, like Kirk is amazing. It's, you know, friendship set on fire. But yeah, that's how, I guess that's our backstory.
Yes, that's wonderful.
That is wonderful. Now, so you had that 5 year gap. So what was
Yes.
that last relationship before Kirk? I mean, that the relationship that said, you know what, I got to get my stuff together.
Yeah.
And it took you 5 years to do that. Thank God, because
Mm.
then Kirk was able to show up. You know,
And
but
well,
Yes.
she was able to show up because Kirk was
That's
already
true.
ready.
Kirk
You
was
had to
ready.
get yourself together, right?
Uh-huh.
He was like,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
I'm going to get for 5 years,
Right.
and then I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to chase her around the house.
He's like, she needs to sort herself out. That's, yeah.
Right.
I don't know
Because
about this one, but the future one,
right, as
yeah,
a best
like,
friend, they know all the secrets, right? So he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm going to give her
Right.
some time to sort this out.
yeah. So the one before, it was a whirlwind. Like it was my brother's best friend. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Right.
Well, like, look, you do you, but
Yep.
it's always a bit messy at the end.
Yep.
Right. You've
In the
been
beginning,
warned.
Yep. You've
Right.
been
yeah,
warned.
you've been warned, so it's on you. It was very immature, like emotionally immature
Yes.
relationship where you think you're mature. It was very kind of what you see a lot of people, or I see a lot of people in relationships like that now, and I'm like, do they know that's not okay
Right.
or that's
Right.
not normal? It was very he was very jealous, where like if someone looked at me, he would start a fight. And I was like, well, you're going to have to get used to it because people are going to look at me. That's just what happens in life. People look at people.
Right.
He, and me, very emotional. So Kirk's just like the calm, and this guy was just like me. Like it was up and down,
Mm-hmm.
the yelling, the screaming, the manipulation tactics, just all of the toxic. It was toxic, 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 toxic. It was like, I remember every time we would fight, which was often, I would like cry and then pray, like, if he's the one, make something happen. Like, you know, give me a sign. And
Right.
Right.
I think if you're in the right relationship, you don't know, not ever praying that.
No.
Right.
No.
You're not
Right.
ever
You
asking for
shouldn't be.
signs.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So it's served its purpose, because if that relationship didn't happen and then it didn't end the way that it did, then I wouldn't have looked in on
Saw something.
myself.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be the person I am today, the wife that I am today, because yeah, Kirk, I wouldn't have deserved Kirk, you know, all those years ago, or anyone like him at all, because it takes two to tango. I was just as bad as him. I think it was, I would react in the way that, like the jealousy thing, I'm never a jealous person, but then he would be. So I'm like, well, if I can't do that, you can't do that. And it was just like
It was a
this.
tit for
tit
tat.
for
Yeah.
tat. Wow.
And
Yeah.
but like you said, immaturity.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's a process, and some people, unfortunately, like you said, you see now, some people still get older, but they don't change,
Exactly.
right? And so they
Yeah.
don't value the need for self improvement and self development. In your opinion, what is the most valuable thing in a relationship?
Oh, the most valuable thing.
Why?
Oh,
Probably.
there's so many.
Yeah.
Well, I always say the one thing I really do say a lot is communication is lubrication.
Okay.
So communication in a respectful manner, and actually working to understand yourself. Most people don't understand themselves as well as your partner. I think that is really, really valuable in a relationship, because a lot of people I witness, and even myself in past relationships, the communication is really, really lacking, or they're afraid to say things or speak for their feelings. And maybe that, to never be afraid to be your whole self and say how you feel. Yeah.
Okay,
And what's
wonderful.
affecting you. Because there's so many people that are scared to, say in case, that person blows up or leaves them
Right.
or
Right.
Exactly.
anything like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
So how have you handled, like conflict now, like between you and Kirk? I mean, like you've learned because you were in that toxic relationship. Now you
Um,
find a more loving, more calm relationship, and we know conflicts do arise.
So,
mhm.
what are the difference
Yeah.
between the way you handle conflict and the way Kirk handles conflict?
Very different. So I am someone that is not afraid of conflict. And I don't see conflict as a negative. Oh no, not like to say conflict is negative. Not negative, but it's like people have negative connotations.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
afraid of confrontation.
Okay.
So I am more than okay to respectfully say what I need or speak my mind or say that is not okay. And I know a lot of people, they think of confrontation and they think, oh my gosh, that's so negative, that's so aggressive, that's so this. But I'm like, clear is kind. Letting someone know exactly where you stand, where they stand, how you feel is very, very kind in the end. Being
Mm-hmm.
all wishy washy and
Right.
confusing is not fair. It's really
It's
not fair
right.
at all.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
with our conflict differences, we're very different. Kirk learnt very quick that I'm not like most women. I don't say I'm fine when I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. Well,
so
that's good.
if he says what's wrong, Matt, you want to know what's wrong, and I
Oh.
would tell you. I would tell you what's wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
I never am, or I'll just come and tell him, like, oh, when you said that, or when you did that, I didn't appreciate it. It made me feel like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just Kirk has no ill will towards me. He has no malice towards me. He never would do anything to upset me intentionally.
Mhm.
So something I've learned over the time is to take a step back and realize he's not doing this intentionally. He doesn't want to hurt me. He doesn't want to upset me. So that's how I approach
Okay.
now
Mm-hmm.
conflict with him. Like, this is not okay. But old Amy,
Uh-oh.
Right. Because and that's a wonderful way. I'm glad you're going there because people need to see where when we talk about
evolution.
self-growth.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Elevation, right?
Yes.
And it wasn't Kirk that needed to change. But let's talk
No.
about the old Amy. So what would the
Mhm.
old
Yeah.
Amy do?
Oh, old Amy was still not afraid of confrontation, but she wasn't nice about it. But sometimes she would purposely say she wasn't, or she was fine multiple times, and do the whole "you have to chase me." I would, previous Amy. I don't like to speak of her in present tense, but we buried her. But she would like, it was like nothing. Like the smallest thing could tip me off and I would just make it huge. Or even if it was huge, I would make it so much bigger than it
Right.
needed
Yeah.
to be. And it was almost like they had to prove to me that they were worth it or that they had to beg and crawl. And, it was messed up. Like I look back now, I'm like, oh my gosh. I even had messaged way after I split up with my ex and just apologized. I was like, I don't want a response, but I just need to let you know that I see what I did.
My
Like
part.
I was like that in the relationship, and I don't like to say, oh, you weren't perfect either. I was just like, I'm going to take ownership for what
I
I
did.
did,
Right.
how I acted, because now I could never fathom doing that to Kirk and hurting him that way or have someone do that to me. So, yeah, old Amy would do that. She'd yell, she'd get very angry very easily, like go on a rage rampage. Like a rage rampage for me is like internal, not me going and like bashing things. But yeah, and it would be, or I'd randomly, like I remember I used to randomly, if they fell asleep while I was angry, I'd go sneak out in the middle of the night and go sleep in another room so they woke up alone. Like just this crazy, like I was a psycho. But people are still like that now in their
Oh yeah.
Yes.
30s
Yeah.
Yes.
or in their
Yes.
40s. And I'm just like, oh, it's like I'm watching, I don't know if you've heard of it, Married at First Sight
Yeah, we've
in
heard of it.
Australia. It's going off
We
at the
never
Yes,
seen
I've
moment.
it,
never
but
watched it.
because we don't watch television, but
Mhm.
Yeah, no. So I was like, okay, I'm watching. And the people say that they've done all this work on themselves and they're
Right.
so into self development, which I love, that's great. And I'm like, you have done nothing on yourself for relationships. Like there is
And,
so much work to do there.
and the thing is that when you've done it, you can see it.
Right. You don't even have to say it.
Yeah.
You know, as being into the relationship field, soon as we talk to people, I can immediately know what the issues are.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, so instead of getting to that, tell us some of the things that you did for self-development. Like when you said, okay, I
Well,
need to
before
get,
that, I wanted to ask this one question. So I'm gonna take you back to old Amy for just a second.
Okay. Yeah.
he wants, I don't know. Why
No,
you
no,
back
it's the
there?
triggers,
bring her
right?
up.
So something used to trigger you. What from your childhood or your past caused that reaction that old Amy would come up with? Because that's a coping mechanism that Amy was doing, right? So what was your triggers? I mean, where did that come from?
Or did you even figure out what
Oh,
the
right.
trigger was? Or what was the, because usually it's our past, right? It's
Yeah.
past experiences, past things. Did you ever discover what it was? Or did you just say, you know what, I don't like it and I'm just going to evolve from it?
I think back then I had never, and I still, it's rare to find, had been modeled a healthy relationship. So a healthy, loving relationship. I
Right.
love my parents; they're still together, but I wouldn't. I don't know if I said it when I interviewed you guys, but I said I'd never want to marry my father. Like you know, they say you marry your father. I was hell bent on never marrying my father. I love him,
Right.
but not as a husband. He's a
Right.
terrible husband.
Mhm.
And so I think that in the back of my mind, I love my mom. I think she's an angel. She's the best, but I also think she deserves so much more, and she's put up with so much that she shouldn't have. So I never wanted to be her
Right.
either.
Right.
Right.
So I was
Okay.
very defensive of myself in that, and I think just yeah, I don't know. Like it was, and I grew up in it. I have 10 brothers and sisters. So we're a very big,
Large.
loud
Wow.
family.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it used to be a lot of yelling, and you'd see parents yelling. And like if I dropped something, it would trigger something in my mum and she'd scream at me. And it's like that no one was in touch with
Right.
self development or their emotions. So I put it down. Like I don't blame them at all,
Right.
but I had very much, and I had previously by all my boyfriends before been cheated on. So it was like just all this stuff that I had, I guess, this protection mechanism
Right.
of, and I had this thought, you know, I needed to be with someone and be married and settle down, and didn't realize there's more to life than that. So I was just thinking, you know, passionate, toxic relationships are what it is, and this is how it is.
Right. Right.
And then after, when I sat down, I was like, started doing relationship seminars and just working on myself and reading even more than I already did. And I started realizing, oh, I do these things too. That's where
Right.
this is coming from. I can't put on, like, I can't automatically think my next partner is going to cheat on me just because my last one did. That's not fair. Why get into a relationship?
That's right.
So it was just all of those kind of build ups. But I think that was a trigger. I had very high walls of protection.
Yeah. And I say all the time, our past as far as our parents, right? We're either going to model them or we're gonna like you say, be hell-bent on I'm gonna be the complete opposite. I'm not going to allow a man to do this. I'm not gonna allow someone to talk to me that way. I'm not going to let someone walk over me. And so we start, you know, putting on this armor of who we think we are, not based on who we want to be, but just on who we don't want to be.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
we don't know how to balance it. And so, what was some of the work that you did? What was some of the, you know, development? What first of all, what made you seek it? Right, just reading.
Yeah, that's
and
very
understanding,
mature of you,
right?
for sure.
Or did Kirk say, you
Yes.
know what, you need to get some help? No.
No, he
'Cause I've
wasn't
been
around
waiting
at
on you.
that point. So at first, when I was single, I hadn't, you know, slept alone in a bed for so many years. I hadn't been alone. You know, you just when you leave work and you call your partner and all these kind of things.
Right.
I was like, what is going on? I was in the sea without a lifeboat. Like, what am I doing?
This is
Without a
new
lifeboat, I was
territory.
like, what? I don't know how to function, right?
Right.
And
Right. Codependency.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, very much, very
Mhm.
much. So I couldn't sleep, couldn't do all these kind of things. And I was, when you break up with someone and then you become, you romanticize them. They say
Right.
it's like having a
Yes.
come down from drugs where you're like finding all the good things
That was
about them
about
and
you. Right.
you're addicted. And that's very much what I was like. I was like, oh no, no, we need to get back together. And then I was like, no, I need to find a new boyfriend right away because I had never been without one.
Right.
So
Right.
I was like, I'm trying to find a new boyfriend. And I was like praying for a new boyfriend, and people were like, why? And I was like, no, I need one. I need to be married, like all these things. And then I think 5 months after we broke up, and I just started to, come to and just be functional and not, I just started to stop thinking about them. Like
Okay.
that's when they call you. That's always the time that they come back in.
Yep.
And he like randomly called me, and I didn't even answer the phone. I was at the gym and it answered by itself. And I was so confused. I was like, why is my phone saying my name when it should be music? Like he was saying
Right.
my name. And then he was like, I made a mistake, want to meet up, rah, rah, rah. And it just like put me in a whirlwind again. And then I was like, okay. And there was a whole thing. He actually was still with the girl that he had cheated on me with, and he was secretly calling me and all these kind of things. And then once I was like,
So now
what?
he's cheating on you with the girl he cheated on you with.
Yeah, or cheating on her with me. Yeah,
Right.
like it
Right.
was
Yeah.
just like a
Exactly. Right.
whole
Right. Right. Just
mess.
Wow.
a whole.
He's bringing
Yeah.
you back into that mess. Okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
then,
he couldn't bring her unless she was willing to go.
That's true too.
yeah. And then once that, like, I ended that, I was like, this is, the worst part about that was he used my dead grandmother to like break down my walls. Because
Mm.
when she passed away, right before she passed away, she said to him, look after my Amy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then he told me that at like, when he was on that call 5 months after we split up,
Mm-hmm.
and said, no, we're not on the call, when we met up, and he's like crying and, I'm not looking happy. But like he was actually making more of a mess in the end.
Right.
But so when that finished, I was like, nah, Amy, no, you can't. You need to be single. You need to rely on yourself. You need to not be dependent on anyone else. You need to be able to figure out how to do everything you can by yourself and learn to love life without relying on another person.
Or
You need to
just
be
love
happy.
yourself. Do you think it was
Hmm.
about loving yourself in at the end? Because people treat you with the energy that you're giving off. And
Yeah.
if you really
Yeah.
love yourself, you're going to show them, like now, right? Kirk's a wonderful person, but he learned how to love you because you started to love you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I've always been quite confident and love myself and stuff like that. But I think towards the end of that relationship and through the cheating and everything, naturally
Yeah,
you doubt everything. And I was giving off, well, I guess for the first few months after being in a relationship, even though he wasn't around, I was giving off those
right.
lost without a partner
Mm-hmm.
kind of vibes.
Yes,
Yep.
So yeah. So then I was like, no, yeah, you need to learn to love life
mm-hmm.
with
By
on your
yourself.
own. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
Yep.
need a relationship. You don't. And now I'm like, do not get in one unless you're really 100% ready, because they don't, it's like lots of people, they're just settling, as we've spoken about before. And I'm like, that's not adding to your life at all. It's not helping you love your life. So that's what I did. That's when I decided. And then I had already always been into self development and all of that kind of stuff, but I started reading some books about relationships. So I read the book Love and Respect. Have you read that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, loved that. And I obviously the Five Love Languages, which I'd read before, and
Mm-hmm.
another book. What was it? I
Mm.
forget, but like lots of that. And that actually started, I went to the church that I was visiting with my friend. They at the time they had like a relationship, what's it called? Not a seminar, but it's like where it goes over
Oh, a
5.
revival
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
So
Or a
I went
retreat, something
in.
like that.
or
A retreat.
conference,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
marriage
it was just
retreat.
like every Sunday night, that was the topic, but there was a
Okay.
different topic.
Okay.
Oh.
And so I chose to go to them with her. And it was not even my normal church, but I was like, I really like their views on things. And that was profound for me. That's where I sat and realized all the things that I had done and the part that I had played. And I was like, whoa, okay. Just even things like withholding intimacy and all of these kind of things that I used to do all the time. And that is so normal in relationships for people to do and to punish people and all these kind of things. So I did that. And that's where I was like, okay. And I made promises to myself during those weeks about things that I refused to ever do to a future partner. So, like, one of them was withhold intimacy when I was like mad or withhold it at all.
That's so funny. That's
Yep.
so funny.
You know
I,
that.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we just had our podcast on Friday, and we
Yep.
were actually discussing
Weaponizing
weaponizing sex.
sex.
Right, because
Yep.
and the person's like, well, isn't that normal? And like, isn't that what I said? Well, that's what we're conditioned to believe. But if it was just a whole topic. So, what did you learn? So, why did you? What was said, or what was revealed to you, or what did you realize? Why that's not something you need to do. And I say that so now we can play this, and everyone who was talking about harm, weaponizing sex, maybe they can get a better understanding from your perspective.
So, from my perspective, it got with my past partner, it got to the point where I just would reject them all the time. And when it was just like, nah, I don't want to, like, just don't touch me. And then during the seminars, I listened, and it's just like pretty much is what I say to people now: put yourself in their shoes and have them reject you constantly, every single day, every single time they come near you. Like, how does that make you feel?
Right.
So why the person you love, why do you want to make them feel like that?
Right.
Like,
Right.
actually think about it from their point of view. Because if Kirk just says no to me, I get upset. So, what do you mean no? Like, he said no to me, but like if he was like to reject me,
Right.
for sexually first, I would feel unattractive. And who says like that men don't feel that way too?
Right.
Right.
I would feel unwanted, like they don't like me. They might say they love me, but you want to be liked in a relationship too, and unwanted, and that's not
not
nice.
what you.
And why is it fair for you to make your partner feel that way? It's not. It's disgusting. But I was one of those people too, because that's what you see. Everyone does that.
Yep.
Everyone talks about, oh, she just says no every time. She has a headache every time I try, or she's got something. And
Yep.
so when Kirk and I got together, I said to him, I would like to implement a no rejection rule, and we do never reject each other.
Okay.
And I was like, because you don't deserve to ever feel rejected, because I don't want you to ever feel that way
Right.
at all. I'm never going to weaponize this. And it doesn't mean we just go out every day like rabbits.
Right.
It
Right.
just means that
So
that person knows that they're not afraid to initiate at all. None of us are ever afraid to initiate, because they're never going to get rejected. And it just creates more of an open space for even like more sexual experiences and to feel, I guess, secure in the relationship.
because I believe we were talking about when maybe you're upset with each other, right? Maybe he did something, and I know you said, okay, well, I know that I have to take a step back and look. So what if it's something that, you're a little upset or a little angry and you've discussed it, but you still haven't, calmed down. And now he wants to connect with you.
I calm down pretty quick. So,
Okay.
Okay.
and like I said, I'm not afraid of confrontation. So I will get it out. And once something about me is, once I've said it and got it off my chest, and they're like, okay, like obviously acknowledged and had a proper conversation, then it's done.
And
I'm
so do
not
you think
holding on
that's
to it.
maturity?
Yeah, well, yeah, old Amy
Yeah.
is going to hold them, have them on their knees begging.
Right, right.
Yeah. So I'm like, but that's even with friends. If I say, I didn't appreciate that, or like that was not a nice thing that you did, once I've said it, I'm not still angry at you. I'm over it.
Exactly.
Like,
Okay.
I'm
And
done.
So I think so. Let's even go into that part, right? Just holding on, not even with the weaponizing sex or intimacy, but just holding on to anger for no reason.
Right.
Like,
It hurts
why
you.
even
Like,
hold
I'm not
that
going to let
space?
you off the hook and be
Right.
nice. I'm going to be mad even longer because I need you to suffer. I need you to feel what I felt.
yeah, and that's another thing I used to do. And another thing I used to do, I want you
Not
to feel
you.
what I
No,
felt.
not you. The old
Oh,
Amy.
Amy.
Yeah, the old Amy, not
Yep.
me.
She's
She's
dead. Right.
gone. But that gal, I would actually go and do something
Mean.
similar
Yeah.
and be like, "Do you see how that felt? Did you like that?
Oh,
That was bad."
oh.
She was a
Yeah.
psychopath. No.
Yeah, she put the
And
knife
they'd be
in there.
like,
She
"That was
turned it.
horrible." I was like, "Well, you just did that to me yesterday," or like, whatever. So, yeah,
I
but
can okay,
that's
wait,
it
calm
hurts
down because
you
I can
though.
see that old Amy coming
Yeah,
through. She's like, wait, how did that feel? Did
Right.
you like that?
I kind of felt that.
It's mean.
I,
I was honestly a mean. I'm like I was a mean girl sometimes, but so
that's so much growth. I can applaud you because that
Yes.
takes it real so many people, women, if they could just get to that, if they could understand it, most time they can't even understand it. Right?
yeah,
Just to be able to understand it, then to implement it and then to elevate to it really is freeing. And
oh
people who
yeah,
hold there, they can't understand that.
No.
But that was wonderful. That's wonderful. That
yeah,
recognizing it and then changing it.
That is.
yeah. And I understand holding anger is only hurting me.
Yes.
And I just, as I've said, even like speaking, my biggest fear is getting to the end of my life and regretting anything, right? And not doing things. But that
Right.
includes wasting days and days and days being angry at the
Exactly.
person I love.
Exactly.
Right.
I literally see it as a whole waste of hours or days or even minutes
Hmm.
being mad. Like some things, obviously, they need to be discussed more in depth. But Kirk and I, thankfully, haven't had ever. Like, there's no yelling. There's no toxicity. It's usually a discussion. We have a discussion and we both will sit down and see where the other person's coming from and make sure we understand where they're coming from. And it's not left with one person saying, "I promise I'm going to change," or
Right.
this or that,
Right.
Right.
because
Exactly.
Yep.
it's not that he doesn't need to change. There's just some things
Exactly.
I need him to pay more attention to. Because
Hmm.
he's correct. Like I learn about the brain. I had actually had she's like a brain expert on my podcast, and it was like something I did one of her courses, and it said, a woman, we walk through the house, say when you go to the bathroom from the front door, but you walk past the lounge room and you see, oh, there's these things I need to do, this, I've got to pick this up.
Right.
And then you
Right.
walk past the
Right.
kitchen and
Right.
you're like,
Right.
oh, I need to do that. There's rubbish on the floor. You pick that up and do that. And then you finally get to the bathroom. But a male's brain, their males just walk to the bathroom.
And
They
they
don't
see nothing.
see anything else.
I
And you're like, what do you mean? How do you not see that? And that taught me a lot, her thing, because I was like, his brain just doesn't work that way. Like
Nope.
my brain sees every single thing and I have a catalog of everything I need to do and I do it. Kirk's like, I need a toilet. I'm going to the toilet.
I think it's just the role of a mother, that nurturing
Yeah.
role, the
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah,
of,
you see
and it's not,
everything.
and I don't think it's all men. I think it's just when we're talking about the balance of your feminine and
Masculine.
masculine tendencies, right?
Right.
Because when a man has to, they will.
Right.
Mhm.
Now,
When they will. So let's just say when the baby comes, right? I remember, when we first had our son, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to sleep. Like when it was so we would take turns. So when he worked, I would like my days were like I think Monday. Did I have
through
Sunday?
Thursday.
Maybe I had Monday through Thursday. So he
Yep.
had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or something like that. And so I couldn't. So when I got up, I couldn't understand why he couldn't hear the baby cry. It's like he was asleep, knocked out. But like soon as and I would get up. But on my days, now when it was my turn to sleep, I never heard I never heard a sound.
Good.
I was like, oh, that's how that works. It's like you can put to rest. So it's like when you have to, and then he would hear the baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's like you'll tune in when you have to, and it's just the way we've programmed our brains, right?
Yes.
And even though there's male and female, I think it's sometimes you can do it when you have to. But
Yeah. And I think it's trusting your partner enough. Like you have faith in enough that you
Right.
were like, oh, he's got it. I can sleep. Lots of
exactly.
women would be
Exactly.
like, no, I
Yep.
need to watch you and micromanage. You're changing that nappy wrong.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
very
And
much so.
which then when women do that, then it makes the man, like you said, if I'm withholding intimacy, it makes you feel like something's wrong with you. If I have to micromanage you, then you don't want to do it anymore. And you're like, okay, well, what's wrong with me? It's being able to trust your partner enough. You've made it with this person. This
Right.
is your husband or your wife.
Right. Let
You
them
have
play
to,
a part in it.
you have to trust them.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've spoke with
Sure.
several women who've said that they regret not allowing their husband to do more.
To play an active
Yeah.
role.
Yeah, to do more.
Yeah.
Because as a woman, we just naturally take on
And I
that role.
understand, I
Women do
understand that. But
I
it
was
makes no
totally
sense. It makes no sense for a woman to have to do everything
No,
with the
it
baby
doesn't.
and the house,
I
and the
don't
man
think-
is right, and the man's there as well.
But I think like she said, it's kind of like it's just conditioned. It just comes
Oh, it
out
is.
in
I
people.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like me, I was like, I don't understand how women do it alone.
Ooh.
I was like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
completely don't understand. I would never want to experience it. I mean, he was such a great help. I was like, oh,
I was.
could,
Now I made my share of mistakes. Now, don't.
But everyone's
Like
learning how
drinking
to
the
be a
baby's
parent,
milk.
right?
Yeah, now I wasted some breast milk, and I'll tell you for sure that stuff is nasty. It does
It's
not
like
go with
rice
cookies.
milk.
He had some cookies one night. It was
Right.
late night and got the baby.
I'm like, I need a burst of sugar. I'm like, this baby won't go to sleep. And I had a big old tall glass. I said, this milk sure looks funny, but whatever. so
I don't even know how he made that mistake.
I,
but
I don't
okay.
either. But once
He's
it hit
like
my
middle of
mouth,
the night. He's tired. It's not like not
Exactly.
the normal milk carton. He's like, this looks fine. We'll
Right.
do this, whatever.
maybe a little
Right.
spoiled, but hey, whatever.
Right.
It's a little thin, whatever. I want it. But here's the thing.
Great.
So I mess up. You know how much it takes to pump, milk, and here I just like and throw it
Drank
out.
all. You just threw out liquid gold.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
He almost he was almost death. Almost death.
Yeah, that was no fun.
So, all right. So as we close it up, you have any more questions? I mean, it's just been a welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Yes.
It's
I'm
just
so
been
happy to be
so
here.
wonderful.
Yes, it is.
So is there anything else that you want to share? Like just being maybe sharing with women the path of unburdening themselves, right? We carry around so much luggage in our old book bag.
Yep.
Talk about the freeingness of just relinquishing the need to be right, the need to, like you said, micromanage, the need to be angry or for someone to, in your eyes, to take accountability. Like just, give us some wise wisdom in your young years, right? since you waited so long, right?
I'm young, but I've been through a lot.
Okay.
So the need, so it is deburdening yourself when you decide to, well, say you're in a relationship and decide to stop holding on to any grudges or, I'm not someone that catalogs every single thing they've done over the 5 years and brings it back up over and over again.
Oh,
That's
wow.
another thing that really can free you is once we've discussed something and I've said I forgive you or either vice versa, that's it. That's done. We're not bringing that back up. I think trusting your partner, say if you've got a child, trusting your partner to play a part in that child's life, especially if they want to, and not micromanaging is very freeing because, you get to rest and your brain needs to rest. As a female, our brain is constantly go, 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 trying to think of everything, but having a partner that you can trust. Like I say, why are you having a baby with someone that you don't feel okay leaving them alone with the baby for a day?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just it is on you, I guess. It's not even finding the right partner. That is very big you, but that's on you because don't settle for less.
Right.
But I think coming from who I was once and who I am now, it is so much lighter. So much, I feel I don't ever feel so disappointed in myself or hold anger or frustration. And I think that serves very much my husband. He's I have a husband that is very hands-on. He's amazing. He'll cook, he'll clean, he'll massage me every single night. He is just this peaceful, calm, amazing man. But he also says, well, you make that easy for me
That's so sweet.
because you are the way that you are. It's easy when, I do like a lot of, obviously, we have very much, it's no gender roles kind of thing. We both cook
Wonderful.
together, we
Right.
do all
Good.
those kind of things, but we support each other in every way. And he's like, it's easy to do those things for someone who's respecting you and loving you as much as I love him. But it's like men love respect. They need more respect than love. And I show Kirk, and there's so much respect, and I refuse to ever do or intentionally do anything to disrespect him. And that is freeing too, understanding, knowing that men don't care so much about love. Like, they love you. They do. Women need love. We need love all the time. But men require respect. And so many women disrespect their husbands and then wonder why they're resentful towards them, or they block them out and they shut down. So that is freeing as well. That's taking the burden off me, because I'm like, oh, well, I don't need to, you know, grovel and show him all this amazing love. I just really need to respect him for the man that he is, and trust him to be the man of the house, and trust him with our future child, and trust him with decisions. And it's so funny because I'm such a dominant personality and Kirk is not. And if you put us next to each other, if you saw us together, you're like, oh, she wears the pants. People would say that. But if you
Right.
actually were in our marriage, in our relationship, I'm like, no, Kirk 100% wears the pants. I don't make a decision. Just, I'm like, this is what's happening. Like,
Right. Exactly.
he's the head of the house. I'm like, I didn't get married to be the head of the house. Like, I didn't get married to do this. I'm like, so I think from being that toxic person that I was, it's not a nice way to live. Simple as that. Why would you ever want to make yourself feel that way? But why would you ever want to make the person you supposedly love
That way.
feel that way?
Exactly.
Wonderful. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
So it's like living
amazing.
without the guilt of hurting them constantly all the time, and never having to backtrack and be like, I didn't mean what I said, or I didn't mean that, or, I'm sorry I hurt you. Obviously, there's times that you hurt them unintentionally,
Right.
and you are sorry, but never intending to do that, and
do it.
never doing it out of malice. Yeah.
And that's what,
So,
and that's important, because only thing like you said, it only creates resentment,
Mm-hmm.
disconnect. It creates a disparity in your marriage. You're only really hurting your marriage or your relationship if you're not married. All right. So we thank you. So Amy, tell everyone where they can find you, what you have going on, whatever you want to tell them.
yes. So you can find me, it's the Your Honest Ally podcast. You can find me on anywhere that you get your podcasts. I'll be there. And I'm also on Instagram. It's the.Your Honest Ally podcast. And you can find me there.
All right.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
And it was a fun podcast. So, guys, we were on
Was.
Amy's podcast.
Yes.
We had a wonderful time.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
And so we can't wait for you to come back live,
Live.
where we can have
Yes.
where you can educate the people,
Yes.
especially from a young perspective. That's
Right.
what's wonderful.
Young
Yeah.
and mature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Someone that has actually done the work, right? And that's what we're
Yes.
trying to get couples to understand. You have to do the
the work.
personal work,
Because
Yeah.
and you have to grow.
you can be 50, 60, or 70 and still in that same, craziness.
Yeah.
All
The
right.
mindset. Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Jason, let everybody know where they can find us.
All right. You can find us everywhere, but here it is. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at Legendary Relationship. You can also listen to our podcast, Loving Beyond the I Do, wherever you get your podcasts delivered. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcasts, or YouTube. Or go to our website, legendaryrelationship.com, and click on podcasts.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode for us. And as always,
We're in it to win it. Till next week, guys. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Amy.
Thank
Thank you. See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Lovin' Beyond the I Do podcast. Head over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Legendary Relationship, or visit our website at legendaryrelationship.com. Till next time, remember to make every day count.